Hey guys, this is Dave here with Full Armor Gaming, coming back to you guys again for another episode in our How to DM series. We've covered all kinds of stuff, and today what we're covering is story arc. How to create a story arc for your campaign. So first things first, like and subscribe so that we can keep this content coming to you guys. If you find that this stuff is helpful, or maybe you've got a friend that is kind of working through doing the same thing and you think this could help them, please share it with them so that they can kind of learn more as well. And maybe they can get some ideas from this, or you guys can comment and send me ideas so I can help become a better DM as well. But today, like I said, we are talking about story arcs. What is a story arc, and why do you need one for your game of for your campaign of D&D. So first off, what is a story arc? A story arc is essentially for your campaign. It is your player's call to action. It is, why are we here? Why are we sitting at this table? What is the reason that our players aren't just on autopilot existing in a world somewhere? What is happening to where we are sitting at the table all trying to work together for something, whatever that is, whatever it is the story arc. So that's the first thing we need to come up with. So there are a couple ways of doing that. What do we need to come up with a story arc? So first off, what we need is a problem. We need there to be a problem in the world that affects all of the players. So whatever that could be, it could be something along the lines of, people are going missing, or we are hired to figure it out. There can be, there's an impending war. There's a neighboring kingdom that is pushing their borders against ours, and the king has hired us to go and investigate and see what we can do. Something along those lines. The next thing that you need is a cause of that problem. So, it could be we call them BBEGs, big, bad, evil guy. You can have something that's happening in the world where the world is slowly, changing in some way for the worse. And we need to, one, figure out the cause, and two, stop it from happening. Whatever it is that you have in your mind, the story you want to tell, you need a problem. You need a cause to that problem. And then the last thing that you need is objectives to solve that problem. A word that we use a lot in this is quests, going on certain quests and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, what you need to present the players with is, you guys are in a situation. There is a problem that is either here already or on its way coming. This is the cause of the problem. And anyway, I wouldn't just lay it out like bam, 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 but let them try to figure out what is the cause of the problem. And then once they figured out, or maybe part of the objective is figuring out what the cause of the problem is, but then also giving them steps that they can do to help them solve the problem. That, in a nutshell, is what a story arc for their campaign is. Now, you can have so many different branches of side quests and other things. It doesn't have to just be every day we show up and we try to or every day, yeah, I wish, right? But every session we show up and, we have to check off another thing off the objective list. I'm not saying that at all, but what I'm saying overall, those are the three things that you need to establish a story arc. Is you need a problem, a cause of the problem, and objectives to solve that problem. Then we come to the option of, there's two ways we can do this. If you have a story in your head, then what we can do is we can make our own story arc. The ways that I like to do that is, I have kind of an overarching story I want to tell. And then what I do is I incorporate aspects of either shows or movies or books or, video games or whatever that I have played or read or experienced in the past. And I kind of take little things from each one of them to make what it is I'm working towards. So just to give you an example, right now, the campaign I'm on, the players are in a world that's already established. They have encountered a problem that was started before even like the gods were here. So, and I'm the DM. I can do that if I want to, and that kind of stuff. So what it does is it lets them explore around in a world that thinks that it knows what's going on. The world thinks that it's already been established, thinks that it knows things, but they're starting to, by investigating and going on more missions, they're starting to find out that the history that we've always been told isn't exactly the history that exists, and that there was stuff that existed here before, and that stuff is waking up and it's starting to come back. And so, like for me personally, I'm taking little aspects of different things. So like, I'm taking aspects from a book series called the Night Angel Trilogy. I'm taking aspects from an old video game that I absolutely loved called Legend of Dragoon. I'm taking aspects of a whole bunch of different things that I enjoy, smashing them together to make my own story. And that is one way that you can do that. Another way, and probably the more popular way when it comes to creating a story arc, is to run a module. Now, modules are essentially D&D or other D&D creators have already done all of that. They've made the story, they've made NPCs, they've made maps, they've made towns, they've made quests, even side quests. They've got everything that you would need. And so if you're a new player, that's probably the way to go. Unless you are like, the only reason I even want to DM is because I have a story I want to tell. Okay, well then yes, feel free to do that. But if it's like, hey, I'm new to this, I'm not quite sure what I want to do, I just know I want to try out DMing, there's a lot of different options. I'm going to show you just kind of a list on, like I said, I like to use D&D Beyond. So on D&D Beyond, I'm just kind of go through and kind of show you a list of all of the different adventures that you can participate in or you could run as a DM. Honestly, the one I would recommend if this is your very first time ever DMing and you're like, I want to take it slow, I want to take it easy, is an older one called The Lost Mine of Phandelver. It is a very good introductory story. It will very much hold your hand through everything. It doesn't really ever put you in any situations that are going to be too daunting as a DM to handle. It is a great first thing to run. However, if you are playing with a lot of people that have played the game for a long time, most likely they've probably ran Lost Mines of Phandelver, so they're probably already going to know what's happening. That does not mean that it's a deal breaker. Most players are just going to be happy to play. There are all kinds of different ones on here. There are some super popular ones. Curse of Strahd is probably the most well-known module. It goes way back to before 5e, and it's just such a popular one that they keep integrating it up and adapting it for the new editions. It is by far the most well-known module out of all. So chances are high your players have probably heard or played this in some way, but it is one that the replayability of it is really high. It's really good. It's very challenging. But from a DM's perspective, it's also a lot of fun as well. Some other popular ones is like Tomb of Annihilation is a very difficult for the player one. But just the amount that they have, it's daunting. It is almost a little daunting how many there are just in D&D, like official, like Wizard of the Coasts. But then you could also branch out to like third-party sources. And then it's like whatever you can think of. Someone's probably already made a campaign about it somewhere. Like I said in one of my other videos, my first big module that I ran was the Icewind Dale Ram of the Frost Maiden. I actually took a pre-established group of players and then put them into that one. Now that one's like starts at like level 1 and works, I think it's supposed to be like up to 12 or 13. We did not. We started at level 7 and then worked our way up to eventually level 20, but it just kind of works its way however you want to make it work. Descent into Avernus is another very, very popular one. That is an intense one. There's a lot of combat in that one, but it's also a lot of fun. It's all about just figuring out, like, you go through, read some of these stories and see if there's any of them like, ooh, that would be a lot of fun. I would like to play that. but it just gives you so many different options, and there's so many different other things in like partnered content that you can run. The amount of options that you can run as a DM can almost be a little daunting. Sometimes for people it is almost easier just I'm gonna make up my own, because choosing one can be a little bit crazy. But if it's one of those where it's like, I know what I want to do, I want to run this campaign, or it's like, you know, a really big kind of popular one is the Obujima. That's kind of like almost like a Studio Ghibli themed one. Studio Ghibli. I still don't think it should be G, but it actually is. I don't like it. Studio Ghibli themed. There's Lord of the Rings. There's all kinds of stuff that you can run with. But all in all, modules can be a lifesaver for a new DM. And so talk with your players, find out what do they want to run, and make sure it works with what you have in mind. If they're like, hey, I've played a ton of adventures and I really want something new, something that's I didn't read about somewhere, I want something brand new all made up. And then you're like, well, I'm a brand new DM and I really would rather just run a module. Then maybe you two can work together and figure out like, okay, well, maybe let's find a module that I've never run before, I've never played in before as a player. Just work together, because if you're going to sit down for a campaign, you want it to be fun for everybody, because campaigns can last quite a while. All in all, though, story arc wise, it's up to you. It's kind of the soul of your whole D&D campaign is your story arc. It really does a good job of determining the flow. It determines the pace, I guess, that your campaign moves in. So for instance, the one that I am running, it's kind of like the problem is like a world-ending problem. If this one individual, our BBEG, recovers these objectives before we do, he could end the world. So then it's like, okay, do the players want to sit around a town for a little while, resting and recovering? Or is it like, no, we gotta move. We gotta move. It helps you to kind of determine based off what the problem is in the world. It's like, oh, there's a volcano that might go off, and apparently one of the local, the volcano actually has like a red dragon living inside of it or something like that. It's like, oh, then if we want to prevent this volcano from exploding and taking out all of these towns, we need to find a way in, and we have to take out this red dragon without causing the volcano to explode. Okay, it's a sleeping red dragon. I mean, the volcano hasn't exploded yet. Do we go ahead and just rush there as fast as we can, or do we take some time working on doing some other things to try to build up and become stronger, give us the best chance to succeed going in and fighting this red dragon? However you guys want to do that. But those are just some things I thought up, just while I'm just sitting here. But let your imagination run wild with it, and spend some time thinking about it. Don't just like in one day think I'm going to come up with my whole story arc, I'm going to knock it out in an hour, I'm going to go to the coffee shop and sit here, and by the time I'm done with my coffee, I want to have my whole story figured out. I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend spend a little bit of time thinking about it. That way you can have other ideas pop up. You can kind of bounce ideas off of other people. That way it does kind of help. But like I said before, if you're going to do module, you don't have to do any of that. You just pick the book up and you're ready to go. So that's what I've got for this episode. Like I said before, like and subscribe. If you are new to this channel, please check out our other videos. We've got all kinds of stuff. This is our DM series, but we've got videos on all kinds of other things as well. Probably our more popular one is our mega events. Those are really, really cool. So check out that video as well. But for right now, this is Dave at Full Armor Gaming signing off.